Alrighty, y'all. Welcome back to the Tao of Investing. Today we got some interesting news coming out of the oil and gas industry. Now, here recently I would say the past, I don't know, few months, the oil and gas industry has basically just shot back. It's like a rubber band coming back at you, or a boomerang. The sheer amount of growth in oil and gas, not only production, but also in future investments, is exploding in a way few people, or I should say few governments, expected. This is from oilprice.gov. Offshore oil and gas is back with more than 200 billion in new investments. So we're not just talking about the ones that were established. Now we're talking about new builds, new fields, new pumping. Offshore oil is set for the highest growth in a decade in the next 2 years. Offshore activity is expected to account for 68% of all sanctioned conventional hydrocarbons in 2023 and 2024. One of the leading global drivers is the sizable expansion of offshore activities in the Middle East. Now, it's funny, Europe won't buy Russian oil, but they'll buy oil from the Middle East. The United States will not pump its own oil, or has stifled what it can pump, but they'll buy oil from the Middle East. So basically now these Middle Eastern firms have come up and said, hey, look, people want our stuff. We might as well make a killing off of it while we can. And however you feel about, carbon energy versus green energy, the market is speaking on nothing is more stable than oil and gas. It says here the offshore sector is set for the highest growth in a decade. Rystad Energy research shows the annual greenfield capital expenditure, or CapEx, will break the 100 billion threshold in 2023 and 2024. The first breach for 2 years straight since 2012 and 2013. As global fossil fuels demand remains strong and countries look for carbon-friendly production sources, offshore is back in the spotlight. Offshore activity is expected to account for 68%. They said that, up from 40% pre-COVID. In terms of total project count, offshore developments will make up almost half of all sanctioned projects, up from just 29%. People are going offshore. Now, we can get into the politics of that at a different time, but offshore. These new investments will be a boon for the offshore services market, with supply chain spending growing to 16%. A year-on-year increase of $21 billion. Offshore rigs, vessels, subsea and floating production, storage, and offloading activity are all set to flourish. Every time there's a growth in a market sector, everything that services that sector grows as well. Riptide or ripple economics. One of the largest growing drivers is the sizable expansion in the Middle East. The region will surpass all others, lifted by the mammoth projects in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. These people are not worried about climate change. They're worried about taking care of their folks. The area's offshore spending growth looks set to continue at least for the next 3 years, growing from 33 billion this year to 41 billion in 2025. These countries are tapping into their vast offshore resources to meet rising global oil demand. The United States could do this, but they're not, which is not wise. But, anytime there's a need in a market, somebody's stepping up. And in this instance, it's the Middle East. But what do y'all think about this? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And a look for more investing content coming in the future.